2022's meeting of the Brevard County Board of Commissioners Tourist Development Council. We've got an echo. Is that maybe somebody's laptop that has the speaker on?
Melissa, are you muted?
And people in the private.
I'm having a flash.
Hello.
Station, sidecars. So you're learning about something that
It could be, we need to mute all the members that are on the phone because there's somebody there talking. Hello? Test. Okay, there we go.
Okay, now we're good. Yeah, was that going?
Yep. It might have been somebody on the phone. Sorry about that. We're having some still having technical issues, and it's in here. We'll work through it. We're going to start with welcome and introductions. I'm Tom Hermanson with Ocean Partners.
Larry Charles with Northborough Builders.
Charity Stewart, TDO.
Justin Karen, County Attorney's Office. Keith Winston, Brevard Zoo.
Julie Braga, residents in Melbourne.
Maybe the TV.
Peter Cranes with the TDO.
Justin. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you introduce?
He did.
I'm sorry. I wasn't.
Melissa Post, TDO. Deborah Webster, TDO. Kathy Ogeron, Brevard Cultural Alliance. Bonnie King, 321 Bonnie King, 321 Lip-Off Podcast. Michelle Martindale, Beach.
Jack, you want to say hello? Jack Kirschenbaum. And Dave Berman. And on the phone, we have Andrea Young, Christy Galzarano, Giles Malone, and Commissioner Pritchett. And we may have one or two other callers. With that, we'll move to approval of the agenda. If there's any corrections, please let us know. If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. We can't take any action right now because we don't have the physical quorum.
Physical quorum.
Yeah, it needs to be 5 people physically here. So if there's presentations, you can hold it like a workshop, but you can't vote on it.
I didn't know Zoom didn't count. Zoom doesn't count.
It has to be physically present.
Okay. All right. We will skip moving the agenda, and we will go to disclosure of conflict of interest by any member present with respect to any item on the agenda. Hearing none, we will skip the minutes of January 26th, and we can go to committee appointments, which we can discuss, but we can't vote on.
Yeah, so let's come back. Maybe I'm going to text Mayor Medina and see. If he's
Okay. After that, we'll move to the director's report.
Do we want to let Mr. Kirschenbaum go?
We can
That way
let,
he can-
yep,
yeah,
absolutely,
It's in deference to his time.
absolutely. Jack, we're going to move you to the top of the agenda.
I'll demask myself.
You can demask. According to the governor, there's no COVID in Florida, so we're all safe.
Jack Kirschenbaum. I'm a lawyer with Gray Robinson. My address is Antigua Drive, Cocoa Beach, Florida. Just walking in is Andrew Spinner, who is the manager at the Cocoa Beach Pier. I represent Westgate. We are in the process of developing a resort at the Cocoa Beach Pier. And as is often said, a march of 1,000 miles begins with one step, and we are halfway through the first step. In your package, you have a presentation that was handed out at the Cocoa Beach Planning Board about a week ago, maybe 10 days. This is what the first page looks like. It's on the computer as well. technological marvels. Me, I'm still in the 20th century with paper and paper cuts. Okay. And the intent is to, the intent is to develop a 126 plus or minus room resort at the Cocoa Beach Pier, along with a parking garage in what is now the parking lot.
Can Mr. Kirschenbaum stay closer to the mic?
Sure. Is that better?
Is it on? Is the green light on?
The green light is on. Testing, 1, 2. Can everyone hear me? Can anyone hear me? I think we may have disconnected your Zooms.
No, they're still there.
They're still there? Well, I'll get going.
Yeah.
I know you have a big agenda, and I'll hurry through it. The first picture you see is the current status of the Cocoa Beach Pier, the parking lot, Meade Avenue, and the parcel to the north of Meade Avenue. Now, the intent, the desire, is to vacate the eastern portion of Meade Avenue and aggregate the south parcel with the parking lot and the pier with the north strip there. The plan is to develop this, I hope it's on the screen now, this area. We heard that there was some concern with regards to vacating the eastern portion of Meade because the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Brevard County has an easement to use Meade in the beach renourishment projects. That was a concern. And I met with the county beach management fellow. I met with the city of Cocoa Beach. We've talked to our engineers. And I don't know if any, we all know how important the beaches are to tourism in Brevard County. We all know that the beach renourishment projects make the beaches as wonderful as they are. But what many of you may not know is that in 1990, at high tide, you could not walk from Coconuts to First Street north or south. You could not play volleyball on the beach at the pier. As a result of the interruption of the north to south littoral drift of sand, as a result of the building and widening and dredging of Port Canaveral,
It was working fine before.
all of the southern beaches were eroding
figure
at
this
an
out.
incredibly fast rate.
And the only thing
If you didn't walk on the beach in the 90s, it's hard to understand the significance of this erosion. But literally, at high tide, there was no beach. No beach. My law firm represented 400 oceanfront property owners. We sued the Army Corps of Engineers. The first time the Army Corps of Engineers ever settled a lawsuit was in Brevard County, in the case of Applegate versus the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And the settlement, among other things, required the Army Corps of Engineers to periodically renourish the beaches on a 7-year cycle. And that is why Brevard County, from Port Canaveral to Indialantic, has beaches. And so when I heard someone was concerned that I was involved in a project that would interrupt the beach renourishment projects, I had to clarify the record. There is not one thing I will ever do, nor my law firm will ever do, to interrupt the placement of one grain of sand on Brevard County's beaches. And so when we heard about this concern, we went to our engineers and we said, we have to satisfy the city, we have to satisfy the county, and we have to satisfy the Army Corps of Engineers with any easement required to ensure beach renourishment projects will not be interrupted. And so, I don't know if we've got.
I'm so sorry.
No, we're.
Is it this,
I've got pictures.
R2D2 looking thing here in the
No,
middle?
that's not what's feeding back, and I don't understand, everything was fine before
It worked.
we launched the meeting, I
It did.
swear we tested
Peter's
everything.
fault.
It's my magnetic personality interrupting the cosmos.
No, it's Brian's fault. No.
Hand these around. They're,
Oh.
they're already in your
We
package.
have them in our package.
You got 'em?
Jack.
Okay.
Yeah, we got them.
Well, look at page number 2.
My computer's muted.
You will
On the
see
screen.
the plan.
That's what it should be.
And it includes from the proposed termination of Mead. It's going to be vacated east of the round cul-de-sac. You will have a 20-foot access easement walkway relocated from where it is now to the north about 90 feet. So there will be no loss of ingress and egress or access for people, machines, equipment, the Army Corps of Engineers, whoever. Second, right through the middle of the resort will be a publicly dedicated ingress egress as well, as you can see from that. And if you look at page 3, you see that which is proposed to be vacated. And that's not, and on the south, Pulsifer Avenue is going to be improved with additional parking, and the east end of Pulsifer will be tied, one back, yeah. The east, Pulsifer's at the bottom, it'll be a public walkway, it'll be improved, it'll be tied to the pier, and the pier will be tied to the public right-of-way on the north side. All of these will provide access both to pedestrians, guests, visitors, everybody, and the Army Corps of Engineers and Brevard County will never be interrupted in their required placement of sand on the beach. And so we hope whatever concerns there were are satisfied, and that you're confident that the city of Cocoa Beach will not vacate a right-of-way, will not vacate Mead, causing any loss of access to the beach for these beach renourishment projects. I'm confident that the plans we have will provide everything the Corps needs to continue their obligation to renourish the beaches periodically. And as I said, we are in the first step of this 1,000-mile march. And if we complete this step and the City Commission approves our intent to vacate Mead, it will not actually be vacated until construction starts, and the conditions of the vacation will include these accesses that I've described. And so it's my hope that this Tourist Development Council can encourage its director to advise the city of Cocoa Beach and the county that if the conditions I've promised are met, that you would support this resort. I think it would be a fabulous addition to Cocoa Beach and Brevard County. The Westgate people are world-class. They know what they're doing. And I know if Giles is on the TV set somewhere, and Tom, I know the Cocoa Beach Pier intimately well, and its incarnations ever since it was built by Rick Stotler back in the early 60s. This is the best possible thing that ever happened to the pier. It's the best possible thing that'll happen to Cocoa Beach in the foreseeable future. I'm here to answer any questions, as is Andrew sitting behind me, if there are any.
So first of all, Jack, I know you are a warrior for beach nourishment. I've known that a long time, and I admire the work you've done for that. I had a simple question. Have you had a chance to meet with Mike McGarry? Have you figured out a route that the equipment would take, or is that moving forward with your engineers, that the actual equipment route would go around the pier?
That is not an easy question to answer,
Okay.
and it's final answer. But yes, we've met with Mike.
Okay.
We've had our engineers working on this. Andrew tells me the last time there was a renourishment project here, they didn't need to use either the pulsifer or the mead access because they push sand through the pier.
Okay.
And if you look at, I think I brought one picture that may help. You pass these out. If you look at I don't know how many of you have been to the pier lately, but the access from Mead to the beach isn't on Mead. It is through the pier's property. Because as you see, Mead ends in a dirt strip. The city of Cocoa Beach has a dumpster there. To the left is a dune crossover that goes from nowhere to nowhere that nobody ever uses. There's vegetation by it. And so this hasn't been used in a long, long time, but if the Corps ever needs an access, it'll be provided for in these plans, sufficient for Mr. McGarry and the Corps.
Okay, thank you.
That's actually Peter.
I'm trying to get at least the link
Sorry.
here.
So, anyway, you answered my question.
Okay.
I think the key player here is Mike is our expert, and, that's who we go to make sure.
He is our beach renourishment guru.
Yeah.
And the city of Cocoa Beach says if he's not satisfied, we don't vacate Mead. And so my job and the technical guys' jobs is to satisfy Mike. Absolutely, 100%.
Any other questions? Keith covered my question. Yep, Larry.
How are you?
I'm good.
I just have a question on the green area that says proposed area of Mead Ave to be, remain open to the public. Who owns that currently? Is that being purchased and then,
The public. owns
The,
road.
Mead Avenue runs from A1A.
the green strip up here?
No, where it says, where the actual words are proposed area of Mead Avenue to remain open to the public,
Yeah.
that is not really where Mead is. That's just a label for where Mead is.
Okay.
Mead is just below that, where on the left-hand side, you see it's kind of shaded green.
Yeah.
That will remain open to the public. Where it is shaded yellow above the yellow block that says proposed area of Mead Avenue to be vacated, that will be vacated and will become the property of Westgate.
Gotcha.
And so if we go back to this image, that, I'll talk loud. Mead from here to the ocean will be vacated. Mead from here to A1A remains in the public. The ingress and egress that is now somewhere about here that you walk is made up for in that walkway around the north side.
Okay, so a significant portion of this resort's getting built on the vacated part of Mead?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. See, in order to tie the two strips of land together, the number 2 there and the number 1, when you vacate the east end of Mead, the property owner to the north and the property owner to the south each get half. And because we own both sides, we get it all. And that allows us to complete that.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And if there's any other questions today or any time, get in touch with me or Andrew, and we'll get the questions answered. We're going to the city commission, I think, March 3rd?
Yes.
March 3rd for first reading, and the city has asked us 100 questions, and we're going to answer them all, we hope successfully, and we'll take it from there.
So it's my understanding that we don't need to take a vote on this. It's just, this is for informational purposes, and it's really up to the city of Cocoa Beach to decide the fate of this request. We certainly appreciate your time and explanation and the assurance that the county will be satisfied with the development plans.
Yeah. And thanks for letting me come and clarify any issues that were a little fuzzy.
We'd like to see you more often. It's been too long.
I'd love to be here more often.
Put your suit on and everything.
Everything. A tie. I even wore a fine print tie
Yeah.
for the project.
You look good. Jack, you haven't aged a
Good to see you
day.
guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, I just want to just add, so Mike and I will be at the Cocoa Beach City meeting, and what we were able to do when we met with the planning board, we both got up and were able to speak and say, you know, we would support the project if these items that we needed were contingent to the project occurring and getting approval. And they did so at the planning board, and so hopefully we'd do the same thing at the city. So it'll basically, you know, they'll pass a ruling. If they rule in favor of the vacating of Mead Avenue, it would be contingent upon us getting all the proper documentation and agreements in place that we need. And then Christy Schwerak from the county attorney's office is the assistant county attorney, is working on this with Mike and I, and we'll make sure all of those agreements pass her muster. She is an expert on easements and access agreements and all of that. So she'll be our advisor on the legal side.
Great. Well, it is fortuitous that Jack represents this entity as well as having championed the Beach Renourishment Project 30 years ago. He was closest to it more than anybody else in the county, so it works in everybody's favor.
It's a win-win, win-win, win-win. I mean, everybody knows we are the beaches, and at least out on Cocoa Beach, so. I said something at his last meeting that got me in trouble in Cocoa Beach, but Mr. Mayor, in Palm Bay, I said something nice about his city, and everybody said, you got to say it about Cocoa Beach now.
It is the greatest city on earth.
That's what I heard.
So we're told. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, guys. See you. See you later.
All right, we're going to circle back to the top of the agenda and start with making a motion to allow those TDC members that couldn't be here in person to participate.
So moved.
We have a motion from the mayor. Second first from Keith. All those in favor say aye. Didn't hear any opposed. Motion passes. Then we can move to the approval of the agenda, 1B. Any changes on the agenda? Motion to approve. All those in favor say aye. Nobody opposed. Motion passes. Then we're going to approve the Tourist Development Council minutes from January 26th. Any corrections or additions? Hearing none. A motion?
I'll make a motion.
Larry, Mr. Jarnes, motion to approve.
Second.
Second from the mayor. All those in favor say aye. I'm cutting out the opposed because nobody opposes anything. So motion passes. I saw myself on video at the last meeting. I was like, oh, man, you're really verbose calling for the opposition. We're going to try to shorten the meetings by cutting that out. Next, we have the director's report from, 1D is the 2022 committee appointments. Has everybody made their appointments, and do we need to vote on those?
Yes, sir. We do need to vote, and what might be easiest is just to go around to each member and have them just list the people that they've selected. If they need help, I've also got a list, and maybe we just vote it in aggregate. That would probably be a quicker way to go. So,
County attorney is good with it. Would you like to go first, Ms. Braga?
I'm just listing the names of my committee members.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I got it for you.
Ann Conroy Bader for the Cultural Committee, Rob Hemler, Marketing, Pam Rothenberg for Capital, and Michelle Martindale for Sports.
Steve Herring for Cultural Committee, Jackie Barker for Capital, Charlie Venuto for Beach, Connie Dennenberg for Sports.
For the mayor,
I know I have Fred Poppy,
Fred Poppy for
Christina
sports, right?
Christina Bourne's the only replacement. Everyone else was 100%.
So the others are Juliet Moscani for cultural, and for capital, that was Fred, and I think Fred was also for sports as well.
Yes, sir.
Yep, so those were his, yes.
Beach is the same individual. I forget the gentleman's name.
Let's see, Beach was Hunter Jocelyn.
Hunter, yes.
And then we've sent a link to the YouTube so they can watch and listen. I don't know if they're able to comment, so if it's all right, I'll go ahead and list the rest for the other people online. Let me start with, for Beach, Commissioner Pritchett, Ray Walton. For Cultural, Jim Plattman. For Capital Facilities, Theron Protzi. And for Marketing, Howard Schwartz. That was Commissioner Pritchett's. Going down to Christy Galzerano. I'm sorry, did I not say sports? Jeff Carr, sorry, thank you. Okay, so next for Christy Galzerano, for Beach, Laura Lee Thompson. For Cultural, Bonnie King. For Capital, Mark Granger. For Marketing, Deborah Green. And for Sports, Ruby Daniel. Okay, next we'll do for Giles Malone. For Beach, Mac McLeod. For Cultural, Laura Cutrib. For Capital, where'd he go? Oh, he's the chair. Never mind. That's why I couldn't see his name. For Marketing, Karina Connor. And for Sports, Paul O'Leary. And then for Andrea Young, for Beach, Dwayne DeFries. She's chairing Cultural. For Capital, Samir Patel. For Marketing, Heather Lewis. And for Sports, Lynn Mims. Go ahead.
I'm appointing myself to the Capital Committee, Jamie Tajero to Sports, Tom Williamson to Beach, Mike McBride to Marketing, and Jim Ridenour to Cultural. I think that covers it.
That was it. Mr. Jarnes and I will get together afterwards, and we're going to probably cover him in the next meeting, so.
I told you it was tough to get people on these committees. I warned them.
A little more difficult.
I know. It's
A little reset, we'll be good to go.
public service is, with those appointments, we will entertain a motion to approve all those mentioned.
So moved.
Motion from the mayor. Second from Mr. Jarnes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the director's report.
Very good. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. That will help us. All our meetings, as we'll see shortly here, all begin in March, so we'll have a lot of activity going on very shortly here. I actually do have a few things I wanted to cover, just on a staffing note. I think pretty much everybody's aware, but for those of you that may not know, Brian Blanchard, who is our deputy director, has left our organization, unfortunately, and so I will be conducting a search for that. The job is already posted on the county's job board. We have, in addition to that, 3 other openings, so I will probably be reaching out and sending out information on those jobs as well. So that's the downside. On the positive, we're estimating January TDT to come in at right around 1.6 million. I'll have those final numbers next week. But once again, it's a record month for the month of January. That's the 10th consecutive record month that we've had. So hopefully we can keep that train going. I'm having some very positive numbers already in February, and from talking with a number of people in the hotel business and other lodging, it looks like March is going to be a banner month as well. So we'll keep tracking on that. Obviously, I always send out the TDT information as soon as I get it. So as soon as I get that, I'll send that to the TDC. I wanted to point out a couple of things that are in your packet. Starting on page 12, I sent out, STR had their quarterly forecast come out, and so that is in there. That is always interesting. Every quarter we get this updated. Just a couple of highlights that I think are of note. They are projecting for this year, for 2022, to have the highest average daily rate ever at $123, so that will be a new record. They're also estimating the highest revenue per available room, RevPAR, at $82, so also a great number. And on occupancy, I just wanted to chat just briefly in occupancy and let you know our thinking and some work that we want to do in the area of researching this. You know, occupancy, we're lagging a little bit behind 2019, but that is in the face of having built 1,500 new hotel rooms in the last 2 years. You know, we're basically building faster than we can keep up from an occupancy perspective. So I had a conversation with STR about it, and I said, you know, what do you do when you're building, you know, more hotel inventory than any of your peer sets? So how do you compare yourself? And their recommendation was to look at room night demand. So room night demand basically just looks at number of rooms rented, room consumption, if you will. And so we're looking at that, and over the last 3 quarters, so for the last 3 quarters of 2021, every one of those quarters was up in room night demand over 2019. So from a room volume perspective, we're keeping pace, but obviously that puts, whenever you build more rooms, it creates a larger inventory. It's a little harder to keep up from an occupancy perspective. The continuing challenge will be in the next 2 years. We're expecting somewhere between 1,700 and 1,800 new hotel rooms in the next 2 years. So we're not slowing down. Projects keep coming along. Jack just mentioned, one, and that's not even on our pipeline list. That's still, obviously in the development and concept stages. We've had Margaritaville down in Melbourne announced, but that's not on our pipeline list because that's not. SDR will not put a hotel in pipeline until they've started filing, applications and entering for permits and stuff like that. So, we know of some major projects that are going to be happening that aren't even in the pipeline, and we're already at like 1,750. So we're going to have to keep tracking with this. So today, what I was going to announce is we're going to start a project with FIT, Florida Tech, to do an analysis, help us do an analysis of looking at room inventory growth and then compare that to our peer set and how we're doing, from occupancy level and room night demand, and try to give some projections so that we can look and see how are we doing with our peers, given that we're growing 16-17%, over the last 2 years, and probably are going to grow an equal amount over the next couple of years. So that'll be an interesting project. I'm looking forward to working with Dr. Slotkin on that. He's done a lot of work for us in the past. He's a very smart guy, and if anybody can help us figure that out and just make sure that we're looking at the right indices and the right measurements. He will help us do that. But again, using STR's input, it looks like we're doing very well on the room night demand side, so we shouldn't be as concerned about the occupancy number. It's just going to take a while for that to catch up, and like I said, the next 2 years may be some continued challenges with growing that. Let's see. Also in your, I think that was it on the forecast. Oh, I did want to mention, just tracking through February through last weekend, speaking of ADR, February for the county, it was $135, another high. So ADR certainly not having any problems growing and keeping up with the Joneses, if you will. In your packet on pages, starting on page 35 and then 36, there's a real brief presentation I did the other day at the budget workshop, which was presented to the Board of County Commissioners. I just wanted to hit a couple of highlights from this just so you can kind of see, one, what we presented, what was some of our historical data, but also where we think we may be going. And that's going to, our budgets process kicks off here in the next couple of weeks, and then the very first budget is going to be due into the budget office around May 1st. It's a very, of course, that's a very early budget, and things can be adjusted all the way up till August 1st, but I need to have a kind of a line of sight on where we're headed. So I just thought I'd share a little bit of what I presented and then what my thinking is, and then I will, every TDC meeting we have between now and August, I'll be talking a little bit about budget and where we are and what we're looking at. But the first slide, which is page 36, is just a little historical where, it goes back to 2010, and it's interesting. It shows, we started running between that 8 and 10 million range till about 2014, and then we had a real heavy run up till 2019 where we hit a high of 16 million. And then you see there on this slide the dip from the impact of COVID. We lost about $3 million, so it went from 16 million down to 13 million. And then this last year in 2021, we hit 16.9 million, so just shy of 17 million. So that's kind of where we've been. Just so you know, our budget this year is 15 million. That was what was approved last year by the TDC and the board. And, we're tracking to break 17 million at least, based on, 4 months of data. Obviously, the big months are ahead of us. So March is a huge month and July is a huge month. So those months can really dictate some major swings. And, what happened last year, we had already submitted our final budget estimates before we had the July number. Well, the July number was the best July we ever had. So, it's possible it could happen again. We'll see what happens this summer. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But just some of the things on the next slide, page 37, just a few things that we highlighted were, if you look from the last fiscal year, from October 20 to February 21, we were down about 28% in revenue. That's very consistent with what we saw all through the COVID year, from March of 19, from March of 20 to basically all the way through to February of 21. We were down every month, we were down about 25, 30%. Then from March of 21 to September of 21, we were up 92%. So not only did it overtake the downside, it put us in a positive compared to the 2019 TDT number. So, an incredible run there. And then, as you know now from my report, every month so far this fiscal, we've had record months. As far as major factors, we think we're, obviously being a beach destination, having a lot of outdoor experiences. People were looking, a lot of pent-up demand. People were looking for the type of experiences we had to offer. We had a lot going on with the space program. We had a lot of, I just think we have a lot of built-in assets that our community was able to take advantage of as people were beginning to want to get out again. Of course, we had a a huge marketing campaign last year. We launched some new creative and, ran very heavily all through the spring and the summer, and we're tracking on those results. And, Charity's talked a little bit about our ROI numbers, but we've, consistently seen 30 to 40 to 1 ROI on every dollar that we're spending from a marketing point of view. And then, of course, I've already mentioned the increase in hotel inventory. That just has a natural assistance in increasing TDT, because the more rooms you have, the more opportunity you have to collect TDT. So that's all been, talked about. Then just as far as our budget, again, I think it's very likely that we will exceed the actual from last year. So I think we're going to break through the 17 million mark. And who knows, at this point, we'll just keep an eye on it, but it could go much higher than that. I just highlighted a little bit of a concern about summer. Like I said, we had our highest July ever last year. Are we going to be able to break through that? The one pressure that I see is the competition. Last year, Florida in general, and certainly our destination, we're one of those states that were open. Now all of a sudden more destinations are opening up, more international travel is opening up. So as I think we get into summer, I think tourists are going to have a lot more opportunity and options. So that creates a little bit more competition for us. Bring it on. I think we're ready for it. I think we have a great marketing plan that, we'll be rolling out through the marketing committee and then bringing here. I'm confident that we'll be able to, put our best foot forward from a communications perspective, but I just think that there may be some pressure from the fact that there are other destinations that are also going to be in the marketplace marketing heavily. So, we'll see how we do. I think we're going to have a good, strong summer. I just don't know if it's going to top where we were last year. That's sort of my caveat, if you will. The next slide on 38, this is a really interesting one for anybody that's never really looked at TDT and how TDT is organized. There are 5 pennies. The first 2 pennies were passed in one ordinance, and then each of the next 3 were passed in another ordinance. And so we have obviously 5 cents that we collect on every dollar. This is how they break down. If I use $17 million as our revenue collection for next year. So this is looking forward to 22, 23 year. Right now I'm starting at 17 million. Obviously I can shift that as we get closer to the final deadline for having budget information in. But I'm going to start with 17 million. I'd rather start at the baseline and then grow it from there as we get more data. But it's interesting to see how it breaks out. You can see where, how advertising gets a piece of some of the pennies, and then the beach improvement gets some of the pennies, capital, cultural, zoo, visitor information, and then the stadium, that's a contractual amount that we have to keep in there as a minimum. So that comes out of the 4th penny. By the way, that 4th penny, if there is anything that ever happens related to convention center, sports center, things like that, that's where those funds come from. So right now, marketing is getting about $3 million of that on a $17 million budget. And then just final slide on 39, and just, again, looking forward, almost 1,800 new rooms projected for the next couple of years. Will bring us over 12,350 rooms. Also, a big shift has been the vacation rentals. We're tracking just under 4,000 vacation rentals. They represent about a third, just a little bit less than a third of TDT collection. Pre-COVID, it was about 27%. So, that's a number that's moved up, and that's another factor in occupancy, because as people are looking for accommodations, some of them may be shifting away from hotels and going to vacation rental. That's having an impact. Again, looking at room night demand is a really good way to kind of measure that and see how you're doing, because if you're growing the room night demand, at least you know that you're putting more heads in beds on that front. And then just looking at some of the other factors for future, Port Canaveral is the 2nd largest cruise port. They're looking at home porting 13 ships by the end of 2022. and generating, in excess of over 2 million passengers a year. So that's huge growth for them. And then Melbourne Airport has done a great job, and we work very closely in partnership with them with some international service coming from the UK. TUI is an international carrier, and they're bringing in about 150,000 passengers a year. I think that's going to grow, and we're doing joint marketing campaigns with them. And then Allegiant just opened up 3 new markets, and we're working on doing some joint marketing with them. We're working through some contractual stuff right now, but our goal is to try to put some pressure to help them be successful, because if those 3 markets are successful, they've got 2 or 3 markets right after that they want to add. So I think all good for the future. My continued outlook for long-term is very positive for TDT and for, growth in the tourism sector. We've got a lot of very interesting projects in the next couple of years. So, even if we have some kind of downward pressure from the economy, I think we are very well positioned to weather any storm. Obviously, if there's something major that happens in the economy that may be a correction of some kind, everybody's going to feel that pain. But, one of the things I think that we are well positioned is we've got a good set of inventory coming online. We're a relatively affordable destination. We have what people want in the way of beaches, and nobody's got the space program. So I just think we stand out, and I think we'll survive pretty much anything. But I just think the next year is going to be really positive. So, Mr. Chair, with that, that's my report, unless there are any questions.
Peter, I had 2 questions for you. The first one was, you said January we beat our projection, is that correct?
Yeah, so, I don't have final TDT for January. I'm projecting a 1.6 million collection. It could be a touch higher. We'll see next week. But our budget, I've basically taken $15 million and allocated it across the 12 months. 1.6 is way over whatever the budget number was. It might have been like 1.1 or 1.2 million, but 1.6 is going to, easily beat the budget and easily, get us into.
And that's despite, because it was cold and rainy. It was not a pretty January, but you're still seeing the results in hotels.
I mean, not only in hotels, but the vacation rental numbers that I saw for January, all were better than December, frankly. So, yeah.
And then the other question I had was, you talked about pushing through the 17. Obviously, if the pattern continued, we'd be like hitting the mythical 20 million here, if the same percentages carried this year. So you're thinking those percentages early on are probably going to go down in the summer season as other competition gets up.
We'll have some adjustments, I think. I don't think we're going to bump up against 20 million this year. I would be very, very surprised. I think it's very possible we'll break through 18. But I don't think we'll quite get to the 20 this year. Could be next year.
Lest anybody get too excited and think about spending TDT money for non-TDT related things.
Thank you.
I'd like to keep in mind that we're bit players in Brevard County with respect to the competition. The people that we show on our STR report, we collect chump change compared to Sarasota, Fort Lauderdale, Daytona, Orlando.
Yeah.
I mean, it was years ago, Orlando collected 240 million. I think it was probably 8 years ago.
My budget at Orlando, just the marketing budget for Orlando was about 24 million. So,
right.
But Orlando's a little bit of a different player. They're a global entity. But when you look at our peer set, or Lauderdale, Sarasota, certainly, they're collecting more than we are and spending more. St. Pete, Clearwater is spending a lot of money. I think a lot of us see their advertising and get mad at it every time we see it, and want to strike back at them, which we have plans for.
You should hose the screen down with your gas pump when you're standing there. Light it on fire. No, it would be. I bring this up not lightly. Because people see 16 to 20 million and they think that, we're swimming in cash, but we only spend 47% on marketing. And it would be interesting for us to have before us, and also to share publicly with the relative marketing budget that we have compared to our comp set, so that that's understood. We really don't collect much at all.
That's a good piece of research for us to take a look at. We'll try to gather that.
Committee reports. Next, we have Marketing Committee. Charity.
Okay, while Melissa is pulling up the presentation, we did not have a marketing committee meeting yet. Our next one is March 3rd, next week, which we're really looking forward to. So I'm going to take an opportunity just to cover a couple of things that we don't always have the time to talk about in here. The first is this handout, which is the 2021 year in review numbers. Many of these we covered last TDC meeting as they had the marketing marketing numbers on them, but this one also has the grant numbers and a couple of other highlights of the destination. It's a handy one-sheeter. It'll be, the link to download it will be in the TDO update this Friday, so if you want additional copies, it'll be there, or of course, we can email it to you. So a couple of things I just wanted to point out on here that I thought were of interest. We talk a lot about Pandora in here, but we just got a new stat that I wanted to share with you. So Q4 of the calendar year, which is Q1 of the fiscal year, our Pandora station had 8,800 hours of listens. If you do the math on that, that's just over a year's worth of time spent with our brand over those 3 months. So as we continue to move forward, we want to continue to find ways for potential visitors to connect with us and leave that lasting impression. So the idea that a year's worth of time spent with our brand over a couple months is fun to share.
Do you play that channel at your desk?
I do not.
And in your car?
I do not. So,
Okay.
Side note, is Jim still in here? We can't play Pandora in our network through the internet network in the county. So I can't even play it if I want to. So it's Space Coast Grooves, and the TDO update this week also has the link to it again, so you can share it out publicly.
And we'll hear the advertising here, even though geographically we're in county?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But we do get stats on where it's listened to, and those ads that drive to the station are targeted outside of here. So you're really only serving it in market if somebody specifically in market clicks the link. To listen to it. So about 95% of the ads are served to our targeted markets where those ads driving traffic are running.
Just so I understand it, if I'm on that channel, irrespective of where I am, I'm going to be hearing the ads
Yes.
between songs?
Yes,
Yep.
that's correct. Yep. The other thing I wanted to know depending on which side you're looking at, on the side that talks about the campaigns and website, social, and emails, we just did a little exercise with the content team to figure out exactly or approximately how many pieces of content we developed in 2021. And that number came to just shy of 5,800 pieces of content. And that is all types of content, what goes out on our social media, what goes out on our email, new blog posts. And that equates to about 16 pieces of content a day. And I just bring it up because I think it's important for us to remember as we're talking about our ways that we're trying to reach the visitor with messages that resonate with them, we're looking at doing it from all different ways. That's images, that's video. This week, if you follow us on social, you've seen a video of the dolphins playing in the lagoon. You've also seen a video of an airboat ride out on the St. Johns River. So we're always looking for those different ways to create content. We're talking with our visitors who have been here, who have shared really great pieces of content while they're here on vacation, and we're integrating that into our marketing. So it's a lot of finding the stories of the Space Coast that we want to tell. And I really encourage you, if you as residents have content that you think we should come capture, or if you see that your visitors, as they're coming through your locations, are talking about certain things, please let us know. We're always looking for those ways to find that one story that resonates with that one person. One of the things that the content team came up with this last year that we've integrated and just finished testing is social media takeovers. So working with our tourism industry partners who provide these great experiences to our visitors and allowing them access, if you will, to our social media for the day. So We started with the Village Food Tours and Halim, and let him take over our Instagram and Facebook and walk the visitors through a virtual food tour. Then we worked with the Titusville CVB to do one on the trails and where you can see launches and where you can eat and drink in Titusville. And it's a series of videos that, are provided to us by that partner for the day, and gives them that exposure to our fan base that maybe they haven't had before, but also gives the visitor that more authentic feel, right? It's not always just coming from us, that branded message. Most recently, we did one with the Harriet T. Moore Center, and it was incredibly well received, some of the best engagement we've seen. So we're looking for ways to be able to utilize our platforms to give our tourism partners the ability to extend their voice to our visitors as well. So just some really neat things. If you're not following us, I encourage you to do so. Okay, we've talked also about the Graphis Awards. I finally have the book in, so if anybody wants to just see who we've been recognized against, I have that here. We also just received word that we got an HSMAI Adrian Award, and I bring the awards up because I think it's important for us when we're talking about marketing to always put our work in front of the experts to get feedback. And it also allows us to see what are others who are leading the way, brands doing, what are the trends in marketing, so that we're always putting our best foot forward, both from a creativity but also an execution standpoint. So that, is something that we continue to really look at as we develop our messaging. Okay, so the next handout is the Kpis sheet. When we do budget, we are required to turn in our performance indicators. What are the metrics we're looking at? Why do we track those particular metrics? What are we aiming for? And so we will update this quarterly for you. So this has the Q4 fall update on here. I will make a note that, again, just like Peter mentioned, we do budgeting in the spring and early summer. So some of these metrics we're going to blow right by because we are going to likely have more in our advertising budget, and some of these are very dependent on the amount of ads that we place. So we'll start bringing this quarterly, and obviously we'll provide it at the marketing committee meetings as well. Okay, next, please. So the spring campaign we reviewed pretty much in depth last month. It is up and running. We'll continue to build as we start the cruise campaign here in the next few weeks. As a reminder, that cruise campaign is supplementary to our overall leisure campaign. It is intended to really target in on those who are active cruisers and focus on that pre and post vacation messaging about staying. We did also update, if you have flown out of MCO in the last week or two, you will see we have our new creative now placed through the airport. We've done some restructuring on our placements so that we can really tell a story as a visitor ends, gets off the airplane and walks all the way down to baggage claim and into car rentals. So previously we did not have any signage in the car rental areas. So we now have both the premier locations in A and B of the car rental level, as well as a couple spots in baggage claim and then by the elevators. These are all focused on messages about beach, being a short trip, Orlando's closest beach. Really, really eye-catching. I've seen some photos of them being placed out there. So we're really excited to see those up and running just in time for the traffic. My parents just flew in, and MCO was crazy last weekend. So lots of visitors in through there. PR coverage. January and February have been really busy for our PR manager and our PR team. We've had a lot of great coverage and a diverse amount of coverage. So Forbes, Washington Post, Yahoo. Peter was on a podcast talking about filming on the Space Coast. And the gamut of topics have been really interesting. We've seen your beach destinations, but we've also seen a lot of nature. So Merritt Island, the rocket launches always. And then Peter's really started to also have the opportunity to work as a travel expert. So the Washington Post reached out to him for information on what does spring break travel look like and what does the future of travel look like. So, really elevating our brand to be seen as an expert in the industry. We have a couple of media FAMs. They are coming fast this year. The Thrillist will be here later in March. And then we have a freelancer who works for Fodders, Business Insider, Travel and Leisure. And she has a unique connection to the Space Coast. Her grandfather is a longtime Cape Canaveral employee. So she's really looking forward to coming and covering it from a visitor standpoint. So a lot of great action on the PR side in months that traditionally have been a little slow for us. We get used to all that Surfing Santa coverage, and then it gets quiet. But January and February has not been that way, which is excellent. So, and then lastly, the industry and Tom have been very busy. So he just got back from Huddle. He did have just over 40 appointments, all international, UK, Canada, Germany, and Brazil. He did also meet with 4 different airlines and was on a couple of interviews. So a lot of great follow-up that's come out of that one. A new opportunity that's just arisen for us. We'll be working directly with the Port and Carnival Cruise Lines to do a new training for some of Carnival's top agents on the Mardi Gras. We're going to do it on Mardi Gras Day, Fat Tuesday, on March 1st from the port, with the port. It'll be 3 sections. Carnival will be on there talking about their newest ship. The port will be on there to talk about, obviously, all of the new upgrades and the wonderful things about the port. And then we'll have the 3rd segment to be able to talk about all of the great things that are going on in the destination that you can add to your trip. So a really strong opportunity, and Carnival and the port came to us and asked us to help support that. So we're really looking forward to being part of that. Cruise 360 is in the end of March. Attendance so far, registrations look really strong. We will be going, so far we have 4 hotels who have signed up to join us. So we expect attendance to be really strong at that show. Last year's was great as a comeback, but they're expecting this year to be even stronger. So we really hope to get a lot of great feedback from that. And then coming up this summer, IPW, which is the U.S. Travel Association's inbound travel and trade show, is coming to Orlando. So we're working on all of the ways that we can be involved with those efforts. The first so far is we have confirmed with Visit Florida will be hosting both a media FAM and an agent FAM. So those will be international operators and international media that will host here post-conference to show them around, have them write their stories. For the agents, be sure we get them into some properties and really help make their job selling the destination easier. So we'll update as we get closer to that and have more information as well. So those are my updates. And then, like I said, March 3rd for Marketing Committee.
This is a robust set of updates. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Been busy.
We have been.
Excellent. Any questions for Charity before we move on? No? Sorry.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll just preemptively say, all the committees will be meeting in March. So Capital meets on the 24th. We heard from Jack, and the Beach Committee will be meeting on the 29th. Sports meets on the 9th, and Cultural meets on the 31st. All of those committee meetings are going to be at our offices, so if anybody would like to attend any of those and see our new offices, we would love to have you in attendance. More than welcome. We've had a number of visitors from a lot of people so far. We're not completely settled yet. We've got some construction of some offices that needs to occur probably in the next month or 2. But other than that, our committee room is all set to go, and we would certainly be happy to host anybody. But yeah, as far as other committee reports, I don't believe there was anything else beyond the beach committee discussion. So
Very good. We'll go to board reports. Unfortunately, those online cannot be heard.
we could try. They may be hearing us now. I'm feeling some positive energy. We'll see. We can ask.
Can anybody online try to unmute themselves and see if we can hear you?
I can hear you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your
This
name?
is Andrea. I can hear you.
Hi, Andrea. Good to hear your voice. If you have a board report, we can start with you.
I don't have a report. We haven't had our first meeting yet.
Okay, anything else to announce?
No, that's it.
All right,
Home here in quarantine.
thank you. Commissioner Pritchett, are you able to hear us? Nothing from Commissioner Pritchett. Giles Malone, can you hear us? We're going to check Giles off, and I think, Christy, do you have anything to report to the board?
Yes, no, nothing to report. But will we be able to get a recording of Jack's presentation?
Yes, we will.
That's it, thank you.
Very good. Mayor Medina.
So the last time we met, I shared a little bit about the Mayor's Ball and the funding, the fundraiser that we're having March 26th. Just want to encourage each and every one of you to join me. It's a worthwhile cause. As most of you already know, it's building a tribute worthy of the sacrifice of the law enforcement officials that perished back in 1987. But for more information, please visit palmbayflorida.org/Mayor's Ball. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I was going to also offer in our, weekly newsletter, I mean, if there's some information you want to put out to the business community, we hit about 600, leaders in the tourism world. We're happy to put in whatever you would like, and I would love to attend if that's okay.
Yeah, that would be great, Peter. I would appreciate that.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm going to be out of town, but otherwise I would be there. Apologies.
Thank you. Thanks for considering.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it's going to be a great event.
Yes,
I used to have it more regularly in the past, right? And then it sort of,
So I think COVID kind of set it back a little bit.
Right.
But typically, it's used by the mayor of the city as a
Right.
fund raiser, a mechanism to raise funds. This goal may take multiple mayor's balls to achieve, but I'm up for it.
Absolutely.
So I just really believe it's a long time coming. And I'm just hoping the community locks arms with me and rallies around that worthy cause.
very good.
Thank you.
Julie? No report. Larry?
I have no report.
Keith?
I have no report.
No good news? The zoo?
Let's see, so you want some good news? We have, I think, 2 pregnant zebras.
That's good.
All right.
Spring
That is good
spring is in the
Those
air.
of you who have adopted their children, 13-month gestation, so really, the good news is coming.
And you just had a loss in the zebra family, so it's appropriate that the new ones are.
No losses in the zebra family, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking the giraffe. I apologize.
yeah,
Got
but,
my animals
So
confused.
zebras are coming. Baby zebras are coming. I'm thinking, what other good news to put out there? Lions, we actually have the final parts to finish constructing lions, so we're excited about that. On the not good news, and actually I think it's important to fill everybody in, we have seen H1N1 avian flu here in Brevard County. It does not jump easily to people, but our birds are all sort of in lockdown to protect them from it. And if you ever look at the river, you see these huge flocks of scup, lesser scup. It's our most common diving duck, and they winter here by the tens of thousands. And so you've got this mechanism where the ducks take this. It's something that's prevalent. It happens in the U.S. anyway. So you probably are going to see dead ducks, literally. And we'll probably be around until the ducks migrate north. So it hasn't really been a media story. But for us, it means we have all our birds put away to protect them. And you might see that out there in case you get tourist reports of people seeing ducks circling in weird patterns or lots of dead ducks on the shore, and then vultures eat the ducks. So it is something that's out there right now and hopefully won't come back for many years again. So that's not good news.
And for duck hunters, I've handled quite a few this season.
Yeah, people have turned them in. Interestingly enough, we have a very robust surveillance system in the U.S. versus Europe, because it's all the time in Europe. It's less common here. But they haven't reported the Brevard birds yet, so it's about 2 weeks behind. Sorry, man, not good news, but important news.
Yeah, well, it's not like we're not getting used to pandemics.
Exactly, as if one more pandemic.
That's all we need. Jeez. My only report is I attended a get-together that's, there's been a few, I guess, 2 so far in the county. This was hosted by friends of ours to introduce the community to the aquarium. Obviously, the star of the show was Keith. But I got to see some updated photographs and renderings and hear the story again. And for anybody that feels as passionate about the aquarium as I do, I know that they're looking for both attendance as well as potential hosts for future gatherings to kind of spread the word about how transformative potentially this aquarium could be for Brevard County, for tourism, for quality of life, for research, Indian River Lagoon conservation, and it's got so many missions and checks so many boxes, so that if you are invited, I would encourage you to attend. If you think of potentially hosting one, if anybody's watching this, I would ask you to reach out to Keith. Hopefully we can get this project out of the ground. It's going to be transformative.
Thank you, Tom. I just want to say we held actually our first event in Indian River County for it last night. It was really well received. This is a multi-community project, ultimately, that we're privileged to have live here. So
that's great. Final words, Peter?
Just quickly on Laurie Wilson Park, I want to let everybody know we are wrapping up the final stages of the crossover and boardwalk construction component, so it will be ready for turtle season and tourist season and all of that. 6 out of the 7 crossovers are done. They're working on the final one, and then they're working on the parallel portion of the boardwalk that runs between crossover 5 and 7. Restrooms will be done probably over the summer. We've run into some supply chain issues with that. But also, Tom, particularly of interest to you, I think in the hammock, Keith and I walked the hammock with an ecologist last week, and we're going to replace the perimeter fencing, but while we do that, we're reaching out to KBB about doing some pepper busting and trying to get out the non-indigenous species of plants. There was something called carrot wood, which Keith and I learned about from this ecologist who knew basically every plant he looked at. He was able to give us the Latin name, and not that I remember anything, but I remember carrot wood and pepper. Brazilian pepper trees are obviously the ones that you want to get rid of. But also Keith has offered to bring in his person who does trees and some of the landscaping, and add in some of the cover trees, the hammock type trees. I'll let him talk about it if you want, Keith.
Well, it actually was in much better shape than we thought it was going to be ecologically. Red Bay was a dominant canopy tree that was wiped out by a disease. There's a few hanging on. Throughout the range of the Red Bay, it's gone. And obviously we also had some hurricane damage, but the canopy wasn't in terrible shape, and the invasives hadn't taken over. I think we were both pleasantly surprised. It wasn't one big grove of Brazilian pepper. There were still pieces that were there, and actually the horticulturist suggested we restore the canopy using live oaks and sea grapes, which are readily available, not terribly expensive. Our horticulturist said she'd be happy to do the planting plan to make sure they're planted equivalent. So when we source some plants, as the pieces of the boardwalk get done, we can restore that canopy, because if you leave it open, that sun's going to just invite invasives, and we want to close it for birds and keep the tropical nature of it. So I think I was really pleasantly surprised at the quality of the plant remaining material in there. So it answered a big question for me.
Yeah, so that was great news, and that's, that'll be helpful, because that's not the planting portion. We can buy the trees, but the planting labor and all of that, Keith offered that, which will help our budget a little bit. We still have about 2/3 of the within the hammock, about 2/3 of that boardwalk that we need to get finished. So that's going to happen at the back end of the projects, because we were getting career source labor. They were paying for the labor to do that, and all we had to do was pay for the wood. And then that project, it was a federally funded project that ended up finishing, so they ran out of money basically that couldn't keep us going. But I think on the back end we'll be able to use some of our contingency dollars to help finish the boardwalk. do the pepper busting, planting, perimeter fence, and then there's a small water, it's a little pond, basically like a 8 foot diameter pond that is important to have some fresh water come into. So when we replace the bathrooms on that south side, they're going to be really close to where the hammock is, and we'll be able to run a line out there and put some fresh water in there, and that'll help with the birding, as Keith explained to me. So yeah, I think it's going to be a really nice project when it's all done. Unfortunately, we had applied for an EDA loan, and we did not receive it. We were hoping to get maybe $1 million, $1.5 million to do some more projects out there. Right now, once we're done with the boardwalks, the bathrooms, and the hammock, that'll pretty much complete everything that we have to date. We've utilized all the funds that were in the beach fund. That was $1.25 million, and then we'll have utilized the 2 capital facilities grants that we got over the last 2 years, which was another about $2.75 million. So we'll have spent about $4 million on that park, and it's going to look amazing. It's going to look very, very good. But, anything in the future that we want to do, and there are a couple of projects on the list down the road, we'll have to find either more funding or maybe keep applying at the state and federal level, and hopefully one of those will come through. So that was it. Thanks.
Excellent. Public comment? Please.
I was watching Forensic Files the other night, and it was a rerun of Merritt Island, but the photography was excellent. It had aerial footage of what the area looked like, and it was simply beautiful. I also watched Judge Judy, and we had a litigant on from Merritt Island, and it was Merritt Island on Florida's Space Coast. I went, yeah, that's good. So I just want to let you know.
Nice plug. I know a lot of people still watch Judge Judy.
I love Judge Judy.
Yeah, well, you're not alone.
I work for a living.
I don't understand it, but a lot of people watch it, I'm told. Thank you, Bonnie. With nothing else coming before the board, we will adjourn. Thank you.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.